thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedules while you're here in New York to discuss transforming education and the contribution education makes to the achievement of the other SDGs. Joanna, maybe we can start with you. We'd love to hear more about Trinidad and Tobago, what actions the UN is taking to transform education, and again, how does that link to the broader sort of change process underway?
Thanks, Robert. This is a great opportunity to talk about education and its transformative effect on all other sustainable development goals. In the Caribbean, the governments have realized that education transforms societies in a big way early on, and they have a very high level of education. In Trinidad and Tobago, they have also used the COVID pandemic to open the door for modernization of the education system. We, as the United Nations, have embraced the opportunity. We have a very robust partnership with the Ministry of Education on digitalization in the first place. UNICEF in particular has worked to deliver, together with the CAF, the Latin American Development Bank, delivered support to provide equipment to the Ministry of Education, to the schools, to also develop online content in the key subjects for the primary schools, secondary schools. But we have also moved on to look at the issues of policy, education policy, that needs to be adjusted, that needs to be shaped to produce the kind of skills and the kind of knowledge that will be required in the job market of the future.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Ozonnia, your thoughts from Rwanda.
You know, Robert, Rwanda's national development aspirations is to be a middle-income country by 2035 and upper middle income by 2050, which then means, of course, the foundation, it's human capital development with a strong emphasis on education. So the UN is supporting the government to begin with foundational learning as the key to building capacities for children early on to become active members of society. And Rwanda conducted its own national consultations in preparation for the Transformational Educational Summit. And among the strategies developed was a plan of action on how you accelerate transformational learning in the country. In addition, the UN is working with government to UNICEF, International Telecommunications Union, and Digital Public Goods Alliance to introduce, connect all the schools in the country to the internet by 2030. We've also trained more than 4,000 teachers on how to conduct classes on e-learning, and there's a significant investment on girls, enticing them to get involved in STEM, in mathematics and coding. So where Rwanda posits itself is that without the developing the human capital, without strengthening the quality of education, its transformational aspirations will not be realized. So together with private sector, with other partners in the country, we have a very robust partnership and engagement with the government, but also in transforming the capacities in Rwanda.
Very impressive. I mean, I think these examples, both from Rwanda and Trinidad and Tobago, provide a lot of lessons learned on how you've overcome challenges and the contribution the UN has made. And honestly, from the global level, these countries continually come up. So can you capture, maybe back to you, Joanna, what are the kind of key lessons? How have you overcome the challenges? What sort of key messages will you give to other country teams and other countries as they transform education?
I think that the key realization is that investing in education is a very continuing process, and it actually also costs quite a lot of money. The first challenge is to maintain the level of digitization of the content in the education process, but also the level of skills that the teachers need to be able to use all of the online opportunities and the technology that comes into schools. Second challenge is obviously also to broaden the opportunity to learn about sustainability at school by also introducing green schools and greening the whole space around the schools, including by introducing innovations in terms of energy. And here I also wanted to mention the partnership with UNDP, which is installing solar panels at schools as a way of improving energy efficiency of those schools, but also as demonstrating to the children what can be done in practical ways in order to transition. But one of the most important elements for the United Nations is not to leave anyone behind and outside of the education system. And here we are focusing on the rights of the Venezuelan children who are also being prepared to enter the education system in Trinidad and Tobago. And this is a continuing challenge, and we are really, really waiting for and hoping for a very quick opportunity for so many Venezuelan children who are already qualified to enter the schools in Trinidad and Tobago.
You've raised some really key points, Joanna. Let's hear more about Rwanda. Do those topics resonate also in Rwanda? Or I'm sure there are others.
They certainly do resonate.
Yeah.
The key realization for policymakers and decision makers is that education is not like instant coffee. Results do not just materialize overnight. It's a long-term investment. But you reap the dividends in the ability of the children to then compete globally. Like Rwanda has now, is the 5th country in Africa to join the globally competitive education attainment standards for PISA. And then the ability for them to become productive in the workforce becomes absolutely important. The key difference that I see in Rwanda is not just the development of strategies, because literally every country in the developing world has all kinds of strategies. Is the commitment of the national leadership, is the commitment to results, is the accountability for checking in on results, the openness of the public administration to feedback. So we have a very dynamic relationship between development partners and government institutions, such that we work through sector working groups, and at the beginning of each year they set the standards for what we'll do together with government, and then we check in at the end of the year, how far have we come? And then we increase the ambition level for the following year. So this investment allows us to see over a period of time how much traction has been realized in the educational sector, but also using standards like PISA now to check the attainment. And if I reflect a little more on some of the challenges that we are facing in Rwanda as well, you will find that two biggest issues. First, of course, is issues around capacity gaps among teachers, but also capacity gaps, infrastructure gaps. And sadly, Rwanda is affected by natural resource constraints. Heavy flooding and rains. Many of the communities, we say Rwanda is the land of 1,000 hills. So many of the communities sit in floodplain areas. And so when these heavy rains come, they destroy infrastructure, which includes schools infrastructure. So the investment that Rwanda makes, it continues to remake the same investment just to be able to offer the children of Rwanda a sense of hope, which is what we owe our young citizens in every part of the world.
Really appreciate that, Ozonnia. Maybe just as we're wrapping up, well, thanks. Thank you for your leadership of the UN. Obviously, when I'm hearing you speak, leadership is absolutely key of the governments, of partners, and of the UN system. So greatly appreciate your continued leadership. Maybe just a sentence of takeaway message from each of you as we're wrapping up. Joanna?
Invest in children, invest in education. It's going to pull and transform all of the society into the society of the future, into the skills of the future that we all need.
Fabulous, much appreciated. Ozonnia, final words.
Yet, investment in education is future-proofing your human capital to be competitive in the world of today, particularly through digital learning and digital learning skills. And we see the difference in terms of how far Rwanda has come in the last 30 years since the genocide against the Tutsis. So it's a real pleasure for me, my UNCT colleagues, to be working with the government of Rwanda and all the partners in driving this transformational agenda. Well, so do come visit Rwanda.
I will. Thank you very much. Thanks to both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.